And so Words That Change Minds is the name of my first book, which is now, I didn't correct you, now out in 20 language, which is to me just absolutely unbelievable. And one of the amazing things that happened to this book is that Forbes in 2019 chose it as the first book in their best management books for executives and entrepreneurs. So I couldn't believe that. That was just amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
But, you know, I'm thinking one thing I wanted to talk about is like, why is this stuff even important if you're considering being a coach or if you are a coach? And I want to tell you about one of my clients who we had a session, and most of my sessions are on Zoom because everyone is everywhere. And he had identified a number of priorities from the session that were priorities for him. And I said to him, and now listen carefully to the language in my question. I said to him, okay, how will you implement these priorities? And then I watched his face go closed. We all know that sort of closed look. And he said, I hate implementing. It turns me off. It's not motivating. I know I have to, but blah, 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 blah. And you could just see all the energy go out of the conversation. So as a good coach might, I changed the subject and got him back into a more resourceful state. But I still thought it was important that he actually implement the things that he said were a priority. So I changed the question I asked. And this time I said to him, what are the ways you can use these priority items? So immediately he perked up and he said, well, I can insert language into every conversation. I can create the video story. And he came up with lots and lots of other ways to implement it. And then we worked on when would he do that, and making sure he had a plan for that. And then he went away excited. So notice the difference between one question just deflated him and punked a hole in his balloon, and the other question, which was similar, just turned him right back on again. So that's what I'm talking about today.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Right.
All right. So let's get into, first of all, what is conversational coaching? What is that?
Conversational coaching is the model I created based on the neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, basic intervention strategy, which has a number of steps. Conversational coaching uses some of those steps with a little bit of a twist in order to be able to have a coaching conversation anywhere. In my experience, you see that a lot of coaching conversations happen outside of a normal coaching session. But you can still have a coaching session should you agree to do one, but make it very conversational. And then that way, sometimes your so-called clients, friends, family, et cetera, who need some coaching or some mentoring can have this conversation with you without putting up defenses going, she's doing something to me, or she's taking me through a process or something like that. So those are the kinds of things. And for that, there's a couple of principles that I think are important for us to realize that all of my work is based on. And here they are. The first ones are what I call the power principles. And everything you do affects the emotional state of your customer. You know, what you do, how you respond to them, your facial expression can make your customer feel happy or sad, relieved or disappointed. How you respond to your customer can also, and the second part, of course, is everything you do determines what your customer believes about your whole organization. So if you're working in a company or an organization, everything you do determines what they believe about the whole organization, because you represent the company. So you can make the company look helpful and friendly or incompetent or expert. And people don't realize this, but you have an awful lot of power. But the problem is that most people have never consciously learned a strategy for influencing and persuading people. It just sort of happens or it doesn't happen. We have an impact or we don't have an impact. And that's why I do the work that we do. And in fact, the influencing and persuasion principle goes like this. If you want to get people to go somewhere with you, and this is going to sound obvious, you need to meet them where they are and not just pretend that they're already where you want them to be. So it's like if you can go to their bus stop and from their bus stop, invite them on the bus. You can't make anyone get on your bus. Then you can take them somewhere useful for them and you. And what most people don't realize is that conversations or presentations or coaching sessions are like a journey where you start somewhere and you end up somewhere. And if you use this as a metaphor, this enables you to remember to go to people's bus stop and invite them on the bus. And that means we need to understand how they think, how they feel, how they make decisions, and use their way of being, their way of doing things to invite them on the bus. Whereas what most people do is they just use their own personal strategy for being convinced to convince other people. So that's the journey.